And we are now live on the book club. So first of all, I want to say good evening and hello to everyone who's watching us. I'm delighted to be joined tonight by Mark Billingham, Cath Staincliffe and Amanda Jennings. And for those of you who haven't read their books or don't know these wonderful authors, I'm going to ask them each to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves. So Mark, over to you, please.
Hello, I'm Mark. And I'm a crime writer. I write a series of novels featuring Detective Inspector Tom Thorne, of which this 20th, well, it's the 10th in the series, and it's a prequel to my first book, Sleepyhead, and yeah, that came out on Thursday, and I, just show off shamelessly for a living, sometimes on the page and sometimes elsewhere.
Thank you. Cath?
Hello, I'm Cath. I write various series of detective fiction, including private eye stories, Salco kind of mysteries, and I created Blue Murder for television and wrote the books for that. And I was also invited to write the tie-in books for Scott and Bailey, which was great fun. Separate to that, I also write a series or sequence, if you like, of standalone novels that don't feature detectives, but are actually about ordinary people whose lives are impacted by crime. So it's looking at crime from another perspective, really.
Lovely. And Amanda.
Hi there, I'm Amanda, and I write psychological dramas, I suppose, standalone books. I always describe them as clinging to the crime genre by my bloody fingertips, because they straddle relationships, family drama and crime, but a little bit like Cath, there's always a crime in the back catalogue of my stories, and it's generally shows how some discovery a couple of decades later has thrown my poor characters into trauma. And I've written 5, and the most recent was The Storm, which is set in Newquay down in Cornwall, where most of my books are now set. I'm trying to carve out a precious bit of Cornwall for my own. So that was me.
Lovely, thank you. We have got some people. I've just asked, can you hear us? And someone called Anna Richard says she has no sound, but Suzanne can hear us. And Louise Beach says, hello, guys. Right, so let's talk about, first of all, your journey to publication. Well, I don't know, turn the volume up. Anna, can you hear us yet? I don't know. Okay. Let's talk about your journeys to publication, because obviously when you went to school or uni, you weren't intending to become authors, or am I wrong? I don't know. Mark, I mean, you've got various careers, successful careers, stand-up comedian, actor, novelist, quiz show, quiz master.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of bugger all. I thought I wanted to be an actor, and then I drifted from acting into stand-up comedy. But I've always written something. I'd always been writing something. Terrible poems, songs, and terrible jokes, whatever. And then I got a job as an actor, which led to me becoming a writer. I got a job as an actor on the show called Maid Marian and Her Merry Men, which I did for a long time. And by the end of it, I'd started writing for that show. So when it finished, I'd sort of become a television writer by default. Wrote for television for a bunch of years, hated almost every minute of it, because it can be really tough. A lot of the time you're writing, but all the time I'm reading devouring crime fiction, and sat down one summer on holiday with the family and tried to write a crime novel. I was hanging out on the fringes of the crime fiction community, going to all the festivals, reviewing books, just trying to get free stuff, really. And then sat down to write this first book, wrote 30,000 words on holiday, and then just got stupidly lucky. I mean, absurdly lucky. I had the luck of like 50 writers. I wrote these 30,000 words. I sent them to a bunch of agents. A bunch of agents said, yes, please. I picked one. She sent it to a bunch of publishers. They all said, yes, please. I picked one. There was an auction. I picked one, and I was away, and I hadn't finished the book. And I know that's not how it's supposed to happen. You're supposed to write 10 unpublished books. I know. I should be killed. But it was just tremendously lucky. And that's it. I've been getting away with it since.
Anne Cater has just popped online and said you're also an international rock star. We forgot to mention your music.
You need to get out of the house more, Anne.
We all need to get out the house more.
That's true. That's true.
Cath, now your journey into publication.
Well, I trained in drama actually, and managed to get work sort of not acting per se, but working in community arts and doing a lot of drama workshops around the Northwest and working with a team of other types of artists. But I'd always loved writing, and I just kept it going, very personal. And eventually I began to go to a writing workshop when I was on maternity leave, actually. And that really gave me sort of a focus. So I kept doing that and kept doing that until the point at which I'd actually written a novel, and that novel got published as a result of winning a competition run by the sort of writers publishers place where I was doing workshops. So that was my beginning, and from that I got an agent and then a book deal, and it went on from there. So again, it's sort of a slightly different path from perhaps what a lot of people find, but it wasn't all plain sailing after that. I mean, I did get dropped after my first 2 book deals, so it is a precarious life.
Thank you. Amanda?
Yeah, no, not quite so glamorous. And mine seemed to be, I was basically rubbish at everything else and sort of ended up where I am. So I wasn't particularly good. I was sort of academic.
Well, you went to Cambridge, not?
I did go to Cambridge. I was quite academic, but I wasn't particularly talented at grammar or spelling. So all my essays came back as a child, which was, you're very, very, very imaginative, but please write out these 40 spellings 3 times. And I just gave up everything that involved any type of essay. So, but I did love art. And I knew I wasn't good enough. I mean, this is a story of my life. I knew I wasn't good enough to do art, so I decided I would do architecture. And then when I was at architect, I really very quickly realized that I was surrounded by these incredibly talented architects, and I was going to be a rubbish architect. But it was next door to the history of art department, so I decided that I would just hop over. And at Cambridge, you're fortunate enough to just be able to make a phone call and change and switch subjects if that requires. So I did history of art, didn't go to any lectures, fannied around doing goodness knows what, but then I had to write a dissertation, which was something like 25,000 words. And I obviously left myself a week because nothing changed. Plus ça change, as they say, nothing will ever change. And I sat down and I wrote for solidly Pro Plus and cigarettes and Coke and coffee, and got my dissertation done. And Coca-Cola.
I just wanted to make that fair.
And I discovered I really loved writing. Got 3rd for all my exams and a 1st for my dissertation, and that's when I realised that maybe we didn't need to worry about those spell check by then as well. So I decided to start writing, but it coincided with having a baby as well and realising I didn't want to do any laundry. So I just I just said to Chris, would it be all right if I just didn't do the laundry and I tried to write a book? And he was like, if that means you're not going to stab me with something when I get home from work, yes.
You know how many members of the book club are now asking their husbands if they mind if I don't do any more laundry because I want to try and write a book. I'll let you know how successful that one is.
I know, it was bouncing a baby, writing a book, not bouncing a baby and doing laundry. But anyway, that's it's not a very edifying experience, but there you go.
Right, now let's talk about your current books. Before we came online, we just very quickly talked about Mark. You've said Crybaby is the 17th Tom Thorne book.
I think so.
According to Fantastic Fiction, and they're never wrong.
Okay,
so
it's the 17th Tom Thorne. It's the 20th book in total because there's been some standalones as well.
Right. So how old is he now?
He's years old. I started aging him in real time. So he was 40. He was the same age as I was when the first book came out. I thought, that's clever. I'll just make him the same age as me. I can write about that. I don't have to work too hard. But then it started to just kind of, it gets ahead of you. And I suddenly thought, hang on, I'm going to have to slow down a bit here. So I simply made the decision that even though there's a year between books, there's not necessarily a year between cases. The next book, even though it's a year later, might start the day after the last book finished. So he's getting older, and everybody around him is getting older, but not necessarily at the same time as the books are coming out. He is now somewhere in his mid-50s, I would say, probably. So I've aged faster than he has. He's getting older. He can't, kick doors in and, run about after suspects or whatever. But he can still do the job. So yeah. But I decided for this book to take him back in time and be a younger man anyway. Because it was the 20th book and I just wanted to do something a bit special. I wrote a prequel to the first one, so it's set in 1996, which was a joy because it's before, mobile phones were everywhere and the internet and CCTV and all that stuff, which makes our lives difficult as crime writers. That stuff wasn't there. The most high-tech thing he's got is a pager. Not even one that with text on, just beeps on his belt and he has to go to a phone box. But also I could write about him when he was still married, just when both his parents were still alive, and when he wasn't quite as scarred as he went on to be. So it was a lot of fun. But it's weird, 25 years ago, but it seems like yesterday. But it still feels like you're writing a historical novel when you're writing about videotaping things and, answering machines and all that stuff. And honestly, I might as well be writing something set in the 14th century.
I've just got a quick question for you because for those who didn't know, that obviously Tom Thorne was made into a series featuring David Morrissey, and it was one series, I believe, 6 episodes. Now he is Tom Thorne. When you're writing your books, is David Morrissey in your head?
No, 100% no, absolutely not. In fact, we did quite a few events together when the series came out, and I'd say I don't see David when I write the books, and he'd say, well, I don't think about you when I'm acting, which is completely, I genuinely don't, because I've never cared what Thorne looks like. He's not really ever described in any detail. So it's up to the reader to put flesh on those bones. And so I'm sure readers now do see David, some of them, if they've seen the series, in the same way that you see John Thor when you read Morse, or
Tom Cruise when you read Jack Reacher.
Well, maybe not so much. But it's never mattered to me. So I genuinely don't see him or any of the other actors because I'm inside his head looking out at the world. Yeah. So I know what he thinks, but what he looks like really doesn't matter to me. So no, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Cath, you've got a new standalone book. We've said before that you've written 3 different series, but you're concentrating more on the standalone books, I'm presuming now. You've got Running Out of Road, which is coming out this year. Can you tell me about it?
Yes, that's not out till July.
It's not that long away.
Running Out of Road is it's a story of 11-year-old Scarlett, who is abducted one day after school by her estranged father, who is on the police's most wanted list, and driven up into the peaks in Derbyshire by him with the police in pursuit. And while they're crisscrossing the hillsides, their paths cross with a number of other characters, some of whom are hiding, some of whom are running from justice, and some of whom are just sort of passers-by, if you like. And everything unfolds as Storm Dennis approaches from the north. So it's a sort of road trip chase sort of story. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't read any of your series books, but I've read all of your standalone books, and I'm a huge fan of them. But they are very, very emotive, aren't they? They're always topical, they're always original, but you write things that perhaps other authors wouldn't feel comfortable writing about, if that's fair. I'm just looking through my little notes here. I mean, obviously, The Girl in the Green Dress.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is an incredible story about a hate crime murder of a young trans woman, which was just heartbreaking as a parent of any child to read that, which was obviously very personal to you. We've got The Silence Between Breaths, which is a terrorism on a train, which again, very emotional. The Kindest Thing I listened to on audio, a wife helping her husband with assisted suicide. Letters to My Daughter's Killer. Oh my God, I was sobbing in the car whilst reading that. A mother's letter to the man who murdered her daughter. And then your latest one, Quiet Acts of Violence. You are a great laugh to be around here. A dead newborn baby is found abandoned in a dumpster. I mean, they are really powerful stories. Just what I've just described is powerful. They're all fun. If anyone hasn't read them, I have to tell you, read them. And Anne Cater has just popped on, and she's saying she loves how Cath deals with really important and relevant issues in your novels. Is this something you're going to continue? Is there anything off topic, or are you just going to just go for it?
I hope so. Yeah, no, I haven't at the moment. I haven't got the next idea like those in my head. I think for me, the best aspect of writing is finding something that frightens me or disturbs me, that makes me feel uncomfortable, and writing that. And I think if I have got one ambition in what I want readers to do, I want to make them cry. So I'm really pleased with the reaction and your response. And I don't know, I think I just like writing about loss. So yeah.
But you also do take on a lot of your own personal experience. I understand Trio. Now, I haven't read Trio, it's on my Kindle, but Trio is based a little bit on your own personal experience.
Yeah, that's not really a crime novel, but that is based on my experience of being adopted in the 1950s. My mother was Irish, and like many women, had to give me up, unmarried. She came over here and secretly had me, and in a mother and baby home run by the Catholic Church in Leeds. And I wanted to write about that, but I didn't want to write like an autobiography. I felt it, although I have since met my birth mother and my 7 full brothers and sisters and all their families over in Ireland, I didn't want to have to be careful about how I was writing about adoption. So I just took the idea of 3 different baby girls born in 1960, and them and their birth mothers and their adoptive mothers, looking at all those networks of relationships up to the turn of the century. So yes, I do explore things that are personal to me. I don't know how you wouldn't somehow. I don't mean that every writer has to write big issue-based books, but I don't think we can keep our concerns and worries and reactions to things separate from our fiction.
I'm just sorry. If you think I'm not bored, I'm reading all the lovely comments that are coming on here. Again, Anne has just said Trio is one of the most affecting books she's read. Her mum has the same experience, except she escaped and kept her. Wow. My mum has the same experience, except she escaped and kept me, says Anne. So, Laurel wants you to know that Silence Between Breaths is incredible, and is about to start the Letters to My Daughter's Killer's book, which are such powerful books. And Sharon Baden says Cry Baby is bloody brilliant.
Is that really her name? Baden?
Yeah. She's going to shout.
She never uses her full name. That's kind of
funny that. And Joe Kelly, very quickly, we will come to you, Amanda, but these questions are moving up the page. Joe Kelly says, Mark, tell us about your stint in Maid Marian, because she only found out about it last week.
It was a great kid show. It was created by Tony Robinson, now best known as the father of Laura Shepherd Robinson. Brilliant historical crime novelist. Plays Baldrick in Blackadder and stuff. And he created this show. It's like a retelling of the Robin Hood myth, but makes it very clear that it was all down to Maid Marian and that Robin was a useless wimp. But it was a great sort of kids comedy drama of the sort they don't make anymore, because it had some money spent on it. We built it. Well, I didn't, but a huge village was built in the middle of the forest, and it was all shot on location, and it was just great. It was a proper kids show that had lots of jokes for grown-ups. And in fact, when they showed it in America, they would show it back to back with Blackadder. They didn't realize it was a kids show at all. But I had tremendous fun. I just got to run around in a forest with a big sword for 4 years. And in fact, they've just put I think we did 4 series and a Christmas special, and they're all on BritBox. They've just been launched on BritBox. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Right, let's talk about The Storm, Amanda. Tell me, I haven't read it yet. I'm really naughty. I've got the trouble with a Kindle is you buy books and you download them, and before you know it, you've got 750 books on your Kindle. You can't remember which one you're supposed to read next. Don't
worry. Believe you me, if you saw the pile of books beside my bed, you don't worry at all. I completely understand. The Storm. So yeah, it came out in July of last year, and I wanted to, a little bit like Cath, I'm sort of obsessed with loss and making people cry, or at least tugging on heartstrings. And so The Storm, I wanted to write about coercive control. And I was sort of fascinated by that question that people ask when they don't know anything about what's going on behind closed doors, when they say, well, I don't know why he or she doesn't just leave. And I wanted to address that question, although in a more commercial way. So I actually decided that I would have something in the past that was an actual tragic event. That was the reason that my character, Hannah, stays in this marriage to this on the surface, like so many of the people in our characters in our books, he's glamorous, he's kind, he's handsome, and then behind closed doors he's not violent, but he's incredibly emotionally abusive to her. And the idea is that the reader spends a lot of the book feeling frustrated at the beginning about why she doesn't leave. She's got a 15-year-old son, Alex, who has started to rebel. And as Alex starts to rebel, she is brought out of her skin. And there's a backstory that runs alongside, very like Mark, set in 1996, for very similar reasons. I wanted to enjoy that time where there wasn't mobile phones, exactly as Mark described, so I won't repeat him. But also that was the heyday. I am Britpop generation, so that was my time when I was bouncing around, age 23, enjoying myself. So for me, it was a real indulgence to enjoy 1996 again. I also wanted to set this book in the fishing community of Newlyn. I got obsessed with trawler wars on the television, and was sort of sucking up the way that the guys banter with each other, the life on the boats, the dangers, the fact that it's one of the most dangerous jobs in the entire world was very alluring to me. And I wanted them, basically, without, this doesn't give any spoilers, I hope, but I wanted them to be coming off the sea after this horrendous storm in such a sort of emotional turmoil. They've just nearly lost someone and they're so pent up that they then go to the pub and get, which interestingly, I've got a friend who was a trawlerman. He's actually a friend of Mark's, Quentin, who he's a fisherman and now in Iceland. But I happened to say, do you know anything about fishing in Cornwall? He goes, well, I was a trawlerman in Newlyn in the 1990s. So I was like, oh my goodness. So I had a chat with him, and he told me some incredible stories about the lock-ins that they had in the pub. And so I constructed this tragic event that has huge repercussions 20 years down the line, when a face from the past inevitably comes back and causes a little bit of a ripple.
Lovely, thank you. A quick question from Louise Beach, and this is to all three of you. How has COVID-19 affected your writing? Mark, has it affected you?
No, not the writing. Not really, except I've had more time to do it. Lots more time to do it. I haven't really addressed COVID in anything I've written because I don't think you can. I think it's too soon. I think it's too soon to do it just practically, because by the time your book comes out, you don't know what the world's going to be like. So you have to think about that quite carefully. But also, I'm not sure that's what people are going to want to read about just yet. Maybe 10 years. We need a bit of distance when the world goes through a trauma like it's gone through. I don't think it's any accident that the golden age of crime fiction happened after the First World War. Books that weren't violent and weren't, because the world had just lived through all that. So no, other than I get to spend all day in my pajamas, I've had to get dressed specially for this.
Thank you.
It's not really affected me at all. The actual practicalities of reflecting it in the books is quite difficult, I think.
Cath, has it affected you?
I think I've probably, like Mark, had a bit more time, not doing events and that sort of thing. And I think the pace of my writing, although I've still met my deadlines and everything, has been a little bit more relaxed over, I've sort of just been very gentle with myself and sort of thought, yeah, you can stop a couple of hours earlier in the afternoon if you feel like it and that sort of thing. But I think it hasn't affected what I'm writing, because what I was writing, as I said earlier, I decided as soon as COVID hit to move the action of running out of road to the beginning of 2020, when those storms were hitting us and we didn't know what was going to follow them. So it's all set sort of back then in February last year. But I think for me, sort of turning the question round a little bit, my writing's been a wonderful escape from the news and the world and what's going on. And, you know, I've found it a real comfort to just be able to get back into those characters and be, you know, racing around sort of on moorland roads and sort of little sheep tracks and all this sort of business. And it's an escape. And I think that's what a lot of us get from reading. So I hope that works, you know, once it's out.
Amanda, you and your menagerie.
My menagerie, yeah. So I had a slightly different experience the other two. But first of all, I had all even the university age group, you know, I had all the kids come home. So I sort of had a breakdown, not breakdown. I had I had an emotional moment at one point in April, and I was a bit teary, and I went for a walk, and my kids came back and said, you know, I just said, there's no, you know, you're here all the time, and I love you to bits, but you're here all the time. And they said, oh, well, we'll go, we'll give you space. And I said, it's not that. I said, the two favourite moments of my entire day for the last 20 years have been 8 o'clock when I drop you at the school bus, and then 4:30 when I pick you all up. And my two high points have gone, that beautiful moment where I have peace and quiet, and then when chaos hits again and it's all lovely and hugs and, you know, the evening routine gets going. But for me, I found, I wish I could have disappeared into my writing a little bit more successfully, but actually I couldn't. I found the outside world too distracting. So without wanting to sound too much a virtue signaler, I ended up setting up our, just the village mutual aid group, and put my writing to one side and thought, I'm not going to try and battle on with this because I literally can't. I needed to be doing something practical. It's probably a failing of mine rather than something worthy. But I felt much happier getting out and about doing stuff. However, by November, when everything was a bit more settled and people weren't, you know, at the time when I set that up, I thought we'd be turning the village hall into a makeshift hospital. You know, I was literally like ready to. All sorts of things were ready to be done. But by November, I suddenly thought, actually, no, this is fine. It's settled. We have a bit more of an idea of what it looks like. And then I wrote my first draft, you know, in a frenzy in 6 weeks, in a frenzy, 80,000, 90,000 words in 6 weeks, and got this out. And it was absolutely, it felt like I was injecting myself with some sort of incredible drug because I'd missed it so much. Unlike Mark, I've set my mind. The one that I've just delivered is coming out in, I think, February or July 2022. So I did toy with the idea of setting it in 2019, but I've set it in 2022. I'm very fortunate in that one of the principal characters is a hermit.
That's handy.
Hermit on Bodmin Moor. And the backstory is the 2000s with a sort of idealistic commune set up. So actually, apart from a couple of sort of vague like references to when lockdown happened, I considered someone moving it, you know. But apart from that, I've been able to swerve it. So I feel like that was a very fortuitous twist of fate for me.
Thank you. Mark, do you
Yes.
often get mixed up with the Mark Billingham from the SAS?
Don't even get me started. I just had to actually threaten some people with legal action. No, there was there's some website, and I won't name them because these are the people involved that represent celebrities to deliver you birthday messages. Right, so you can pay 50 quid and somebody off Love Island will go, happy birthday, right? And he's one of them. This is Mark Billingham, ex-SAS bodyguard bloke. But when you read his biography, he also happens to be the author of the best-selling series of Tom Thorne novels. And I'm like, nah, I'm not having that. I don't claim to have been Brad Pitt's bodyguard, so I don't think you can claim to have written my books. But I kept asking them to take it down, and they wouldn't know it. Anyway, that all got a bit. But yes, I do. It happens. You know, I get emails from people that are trying to get hold of him. I get letters that people get. I get sent so many books that are all about you know, war and killing going, you'll love this, Mark, this is bang up your street. So yes, there has been some confusion. Don't get me wrong, I could have been in the SAS if I'd wanted. You know, I reckon I could. He's got a thriller coming out. They all do. He's got a thriller coming out. Thankfully, his publisher have credited it to Billingham, because that's his nickname, Billy. So.
Good. Okay. Can we talk quickly about your new standalone? Obviously, we talked about Crybaby, but you've got your own stand. Do you enjoy doing standalones? I mean,
oh God, yeah. No, I love it. I mean, there's always a thing when you're, I don't know, 30,000 words into it and struggling with it and going, why am I doing this? Why didn't I just do the easy thing and write another series novel? But that's why it's called a comfort zone, and you step out of it. And I'm always very glad I did by the end of it. It's a very different book for me. It's the first book I've written entirely in the first person. So I'm in somebody's head for the whole book, and it's a she. I'm in the head of a woman called Alice Armitage, and there's a murder at on an acute psychiatric ward. The whole thing is set on an acute psychiatric ward, where a murder is committed, and DS Alice Armitage has to investigate it. The only problem being that she's a patient. And it starts to get rather strange because obviously all the suspects and the witnesses are all suffering from different psychiatric conditions. They're all on strong medication. And so you have to start questioning everything. And, at the end, I suppose the strap line would be, police officer, patient, killer, which is Alice. That's pretty much it. And it was called Rabbit Hole. I don't know if I said that, but anyway. So, yeah, fun.
We very quickly mentioned your stint as Gary in Maid Marian. You didn't. No, I've just found that you were Phil, the plumber.
Yeah, in Birds of a Feather. Yeah, and do you know the only reason it's called Phil?
You just called it out today.
Listen, I didn't trouble the BAFTA committee, put it that way. My character was called Phil the Plumber, just so at one point Pauline Quirk could go, I'd like to Phil the Plumber. That's the only reason that he was called Phil the Plumber, just for that terrible, terrible joke. I did so much terrible television.
I don't know. You were Steve in Dempsey and Makepeace.
Yeah.
Doyle.
I was blown across the bonnet of a car with a sawn-off shotgun. All right,
Doyle.
you've got IMDb up in front of you.
Really impressive. Juliet Bravo.
Uh-huh.
But I want to talk more about something that obviously I've seen you a few times at Harrogate or Arrogate, isn't it? Arrogate. And you're quite competitive. Is that the right word? When it comes to quizzing.
Talking about quizzing, God, yeah.
And so you've been, obviously I watched you on House of Games, which I love. I watch it every day. I love House of Games. You didn't win. You've been on Pointless Celebrities 3 times.
Yeah.
Did you win any of those?
Yes, thank you.
What
and the jackpot. I was on with Laura Wilson. And we won the jackpot.
Which is what, 250 quid?
No, 2,500 quid.
Oh, okay.
For charity, Tracy. We won the jackpot through my knowledge of Elton John albums.
Excellent.
Listen, you say competitive. Can I just pick you up on something? You say competitive in that way some people do. Like, I'm not competitive. Yes, you are. What's the point in doing a quiz? Do you know what I mean? The idea that you do a quiz going, I don't care whether I win or not. Of course you do. I always think people that say they're not competitive just say that because they're rubbish at stuff.
Celebrity Chase. Which chaser were you up against?
I was up against the governess.
Okay.
And we spanked her.
Right, okay.
Not literally, that's not allowed. They don't allow that.
That's a completely different
show. Gets very cross if you try and spank the governess. But we did beat the chaser. And I was on a team of crime writers that beat the Eggheads as well, which was hugely satisfying. Yeah, I love a quiz. Who doesn't love a quiz? Haven't you all been spending lockdown quizzing?
It's funny you should say that, Mark, because I've actually got some questions for you now for a quiz. I just thought maybe I'd see how you were doing. So I just wanted to just roughly, I want to know if you want to, what is Shakespeare's shortest play?
I want to say it's something like, is it something like Pericles or The Winter's Tale or something like that? Am I even close? No. Tempest.
No, it's The Comedy of Errors, which has 1,787 lines and only 14,000 words.
Can you move on to Elton John?
Yeah, no. How many letter tiles are there in a game of Scrabble?
Oh, I don't know. Well, how many different letters or how many tiles in total?
How many letter tiles in total?
Nope, I haven't got the faintest idea.
Well, that'd be 100. These might come in handy next time.
Oh, no, absolutely. Keep them coming. I love a bit of trivia.
What is Joe Biden's middle name?
Oh, for God's sake. Is it Baden-Baden? Biden?
No, it's Robinette.
Oh, no wonder he keeps that to himself.
What year was Scarface released?
The movie, the original.
Yeah.
19...
I have to say, you're rubbish. I'm not impressed.
All right, 1948.
Well, I've got 1983 here, so maybe it was not the original. Maybe it was
the original was Paul Mooney as Scarface, as opposed to.
Right. And then finally, just for now, we'll ask you, what is the spiciest chili in the world?
Oh, I think Amanda knows this. Come on, Amanda.
No, I'm not. I'm rubbish.
I do. Is it the Scotch bonnet?
Yes. Oh,
well, that's what we thought. Habanero.
No, it's the Carolina Reaper.
Oh,
okay. Oh, I've got some Carolina Reaper sauce in the cupboard.
Well,
I just failed dismally.
Let's get back to the question. Actually, I'm going to just ask quickly, Amanda, you don't happen to have a cherry to hand, do you?
No, I do not.
Because Amanda has a really wonderful party trick.
Where did you find that out? Where? The internet is a dark place. Where is that?
She has a party trick where she can actually tie a cherry stalk into a knot using her tongue.
Like the woman on Twin Peaks.
Yeah. I
You
tried.
can't.
I thought no one can do that. And honestly, if you had seen my little face, as I was trying it, and I was like,
You can really do that.
You can really do it. And actually, if I try and put a poker face on, it's actually, I can make it look quite hot.
We'll do that. That'll be the X-rated, the blooper version. We'll do later.
I'll bring it to Harrogate, and
that is seriously impressive.
Everyone's going to be coming up to you, throwing cherries at you at Harrogate. Right. So, Samara Wilson would like to know: you've all written some simply stunning books between you. What is the one book you have read which you wish you have written?
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
I think this is a really difficult question whenever it comes up. But I think perhaps the book that just blew me away and continues to do so to this day is Beloved by Toni Morrison.
Okay.
And I'm going to say something unworthy, and actually genuinely, because I remember the first time I read it, it made me feel like this, and it's not a worthy book at all. I don't think I've even read it more than twice, but it's Alex Garland's The Beach. I remember reading that while I was breastfeeding my first child, and
now I've got that in my head. Thank you.
Yeah,
when I read it, I'm going to be imagining you breastfeeding with a cherry.
What? And it's awful. The quotes out of this, the outtakes, are going to be awful. Cherries and breastfeeding. But no, every time she woke up to have a feed, normally you'd be like, "Oh, roll your eyes," and I was like, "Yes!" And I got up and I read some more of Alex, The Beach, and that atmosphere. I just wish I had been in. I always want to try and create atmosphere, and I think he does it perfectly there. It's not a worthy book, but I would have loved to have written it.
Saffron has said that she's just read about Louise Penny is going to co-write a book with Hillary Clinton. Who would you choose to co-write if you could? Mark.
This is always it's something that gets suggested quite a lot, or sometimes writers suggest it among themselves when they're drunk in a bar at a crime festival on the last night. And it's one of those things that always sounds like a great idea on paper, but just would never work. It would just never work, especially if you're talking about like pairing two serious detectives up. So, why doesn't Thorne do a case with Rebus or with Harry Bosch or whatever it might be? And you go, oh, that sounds exciting. And you go, completely impractical. And it would just never work. First of all, where's it going to be set? And who's going to, which bit of the writing are you going to do? Which bit of the writing is he or she going to do? I don't think it would work. I mean, it would be a thrill. Don't get me wrong. It would have been a thrill to sit down and write a novel with Elmore Leonard, or to write a novel with James Lee Burke or with Michael Connolly. It would, but it's not going to happen. I mean, writing's a solitary business. It's not a game of tennis. It's. Have you done it, Amanda?
No, but I'm going to disagree with you. I would bite everybody's arms off to write something with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Like literally, and I probably wouldn't write anything. Like deciding who's going to write, I'd probably just stare at her, just smell her hair.
Okay, now it's getting weird.
You'll never ask me anywhere again, will you? Don't bring her. I think she must be. I would love that brain, the speed, the darkness, the humour. I would spend a couple of months very happily writing with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. So if you want Phoebe.
I think I'm going to cheat. Actually, I would love to work on a sort of children's book with an illustrator, so there wouldn't be that clash. And I love talking about visual imagery with people, and I love the whole art and design sort of world and stuff. So I'd be able to bring to it my idea of what my character looks like and what it's like when they're on the pirate ship, and what that monster is that I've created, and how we could suggest that, and then see them work their magic with their.
And Kath, you smell them? Would you smell them while they were drawing?
No, I'm not keen on smelling people, actually. I think I prefer my own smell to anybody else's.
I think the problem, to be serious, is that two novelists coming together, most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, are control freaks. Yeah. And you put two control freaks who like to spend all day playing God and moving characters around, put them together, it's going to be a nightmare. If you were saying collaborate with somebody in an area where you each bring something different, like if somebody said, hey, do you want to write the lyric? Do you want to give Elvis Costello a set of lyrics and get him to write a song? Gosh, yes! In a heartbeat. Because it's like, well, I've done my bit, you do your bit. But the idea of two, like an author and an illustrator is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I do agree. I don't think I could write. I think someone would kill me before we managed to get past the first chapter. So.
Well, talking of that, Anne Kate has also asked, how many people do you think you've killed in total in your books? Of course. Do you know how many? I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to. A lot?
I would think it's got to be 60, probably.
Not bad. Kath? Killed
not bad.
Yeah, I mean, not bad. I think I because I don't write stories about serial killers, I have a fairly low body count, although that went up a bit with the terrorism story. Yeah. But I'd guess maybe 35.
Lightweight.
Yeah.
Well, poor old Amanda, she's just an amateur.
No, I'm all right. I've got some as well. So it depends if you've actually driving weapons or poison into them, fewer. But if you count all the suicides and tragic deaths that tend to round up my books, I'm probably on a measly 20.
Out of 5 books.
Yeah, it's 4 a book. That's 4 a book.
Well, no, I've got a few that are dead in this next one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. Oh, we look forward to that. Nicola East would like Mark. Are you looking forward to Hull Noir?
Yes, very much.
And as a consequence of COVID, we're seeing a surge in the online festivals, etc. Do you think that there's still room for these to continue, the online festivals, and run alongside the traditional in-person festivals once restrictions have been lifted? I'd like to hope so.
I think they will for a little while, because nobody quite knows what the restrictions being lifted is actually going to mean in principle. I mean, it's really, really encouraging news today to see things like the Reading and Leeds Festival. I know they're not literary festivals. The Reading and Leeds Festival are going on in late August. That is a lot of people showing up to listen to Liam Gallagher, although why they would, I don't know. But that's quite heartening, because if Leeds and Reading festivals can go ahead, Edinburgh Festival is going ahead in some way, shape or form. Harrogate Festival is going to do its very best to put a great festival on. I think they will happen. But some will be possibly hybrids, where there's a bit of reality and a bit of this. Because great and easy as this is, and we can all do it in our pajamas, it ain't the same, is it? it just kind of isn't, because you can't have that direct contact with readers, with other writers that we all love so much.
And I've inappropriately touched your knee at least 6 times by now, Mark. So
I've missed it so much. In all seriousness, I'm sure everybody else has. It's
a man touching everyone's knee.
Well, and watching Amanda trying to smell people.
I would touched yours and Cath's as well. I have no discrimination. Everyone's open to a little bit of inappropriate knee touching.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that there's something of this retained, even if they're mainly sort of physical festivals, because I think there are a lot of people who can't access physical festivals, for all sorts of reasons, from financial to maybe disability issues or whatever. And I think, it'd be great to maintain that access for people. I mean, I've seen a few events over the last few months, people I'd never have been able to see in real life, or people from sort of other parts of the world have been able to sort of watch their discussions and so on. So I think, there's something to be kept from this experience and hopefully added to physical festival.
One of the great things about it is that you're always free. If somebody says, "Oh, do you want to come to our festival in X city or X country or whatever?" That's logistically, you have to go, "Oh, hang on a minute, I've got to." If somebody says, "Do you want to do the so and so festival?" It's online. You just go, "Yep, yep." Do you want to do an interview? It's yep. My diary is inexplicably empty.
And the other thing is things like this, Tracy, where online clubs. That I've done a couple of online clubs for. I did one for a group that was a sort of therapy group, and I did a chat for them, and we've done this. And then there's people like William Shaw set up the brilliant reading party, which has been fantastic. So there's been, I've loved, I'm sure everyone, not me, everybody has really benefited and loved the amount of adaptability that's happened and how quickly people have come up with new ways to do it, new ways to reach an audience. And I think there will always be things that you take with you. Whilst happily running to the bar in Harrogate to buy your mate a drink, it's both, but there's room for both. I
hope so, because I personally am in my pajamas underneath this, sort of having to actually I don't even think I could fit into my clothes anymore, so we'd have to sort of, a couple of questions coming up. Obviously we're all big readers, and I am assuming that you get sent shed loads of books to read and blog and blurb and whatever on. Anything that we should know about, anything that we should read at the moment, anything that's really caught your eye and you love, Mark?
A couple of things. Well, I mean, think that it's already out, but the new Mick Herron book is just as brilliant as all his other books, Slough House. I'm not sure if it's out yet or imminent, but the new Chris Brookmyre book, The Cut, is just fabulous. And I read an astonishing debut about 6 weeks ago, called Edge of the Grave by a writer called Robbie Morrison, which is set in Glasgow in, I think, 1932, which is just breathtakingly good, kind of annoyingly good. When you read a debut and it's like, how can you be that good that quickly? So that's been fabulous. Yeah, been lucky, read a lot of good stuff and a lot of rubbish. But.
Are you a fast reader? Do you read quickly or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't read during the day. I write during the day. I read in bed at night. And I always read, 60 to 100 pages every night. So I'll read at least a book a week. That's probably not what a lot of people think of as fast, but it feels pretty fast to me.
Cath, have you got any new ones that we should be looking out for?
I really enjoyed the new Sarah Hillary one called Fragile, which is coming out in the summer, I think. That was really good. And the new series opener from A.K. Turner, Body Parts.
Body Language. Even.
Body Language. Sorry.
Body Parts might be the second. It might be the sequel. It's Body Language. I finished it last weekend.
Did you like it? Yeah.
I loved it. Amazing characters, and it's all based in Camden, which I love. When I'm reading a book and I know the place, I don't know. Right. It's smug when you know when It's weird when you can relate to a place. Obviously, not. I'm not a mortician working in a mortuary cutting up dead people, but I know Camden quite well. So fabulous. A.K. Turner, Body Language, highly recommend.
Okay, sounds good.
Amanda?
Yeah, I'm reading one at the moment, which I'm only probably a third of the way into, but I'm loving. It's really original and unusual. It's Emma Horton, and that's The Dark. And that's coming out at the end of May. And it's basically, it's set in Antarctica with 24-hour darkness. And your heroine is an A&E doctor who's been sent out there. And the tagline is one dead body, 12 suspects, 24 hours of darkness. Really well written, really unusual, gripping. Really enjoy it. I haven't finished it yet, but it's looking good.
I don't normally, I read loads of books, but I just have to say, I read this. I don't know if any of you's received it. It's The First Day of Spring by Nancy Tucker. It's actually just come up on NetGalley today. It's written in the voice of an 8-year-old little girl who has just killed a 2-year-old little boy deliberately. Mm. It's absolutely, Kath, you'd enjoy it. It's absolutely breathtaking. One of the best books I've read this year, and I have to just say it's not out till next June. Yeah, June, but it's phenomenal. But I just thought I'd put that out there. Right, so let's have a look at the other questions we've got. Hold on a second. Would you ever write in another genre? Mark, would you consider doing a comedy or something?
Yeah, do you know what? Probably the book, if you ask me to pick the book I'm proudest of, it's a book called Great Lost Albums, which is a comedy book, which I wrote with Martin Waits and Stav Sherez and a brilliant comedy writer called David Quantick, who wrote Veep. And, it's basically a series of albums that never existed that we just made up as if they were real, as if Morrissey really made a panto album and Bob Dylan went to Las Vegas and made a show album, and the Velvet Underground collaborated with Lulu. We just made stuff up and made ourselves laugh. So yeah, I'd write comedy. The only problem is comedy books don't sell, which is tragic. I mean, humour generally is a really interesting thing. I remember, do you remember the old Dead on Deansgate, Kath?
Yes, yeah.
Which was a long dead sort of crime event. But I remember a seminar there once, or a workshop there once, called "Does Humour Hurt Your Sales Figures?" I've never forgotten that. Well, it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because comedy is so subjective, editors will get sent a book and either go, "Well, I think it's hilarious, but will anybody else?" Or, "I don't get it, but maybe it's the funniest thing ever." So the safest thing is to go, "No," which is really awful, because if ever we needed a bloody laugh, it's now. But considering the great history of comic writing in this country, how many genuinely successful comic novelists can you think of? I mean, it's really kind of weird. But no, I love writing comedy, but it's doesn't sell like the crime tends to do.
Kath, would you do a romance, perhaps?
No, I don't think so. I might look at science fiction, which is what I started writing before I did my first detective novel, but I didn't quite know what to do with it. But the other thing is, I have written a children's book recently, so I'm hawking that around. If there are any agents, or any publishers listening who want a great fantasy adventure. So yeah, I'd probably do something like that, fantasy adventure, either adult science fiction or children's.
Amanda?
Well, I definitely once, some people have heard this story, but I once said to my agent, I think it was after book 3 or 4, and I was sort of sick of people, cowering in the corner because they'd just seen their loved one bludgeoned to death as a child or something. And I said, I want to make people feel warm and fuzzy. I'm going to write some romance. And she went, "Oh yeah, all right." And I went off to the romance writers. I made her take me to the romance writers. What's it called, Martin Cath? The
Romance Writers.
Yeah, RNA, exactly. Romance Novelists Association, big party, and told everyone I was going to write romance, and then 8 days later emailed my agent and went, "Well, I'm on page 7 and I've just killed the heroine." I just felt that already, even after 7 pages, I needed these people to be traumatized and not happy. So, but I've just written today, very excitingly, a draft for a book, and it's got the possibility to be a bit more horror-ish than normal, a gothic horror, and I was got really excited about that. So if I'm allowed to by agent and editor, I might try and get a bit of gothic horror out for next year.
Ooh. Not book related, but Karen Roberts wants to know, Kath, what colour is your wall? Because she absolutely loves that shade of
Oh, I'll tweet her
Maybe.
the actual. I had it mixed specially, and it's a something blue, but I can't remember what the comes before the blue.
And the matching filing cabinet, very nice.
No, took a lot of spraying out on the drive. Did that? I tell you, a lot of car spray.
So we have got a couple more minutes left. I'm just going to ask, what have we got planned for the rest of the year? Mark, are you planning to go to Harrogate and all the other?
Oh God, I think almost like anybody else, if these festivals happen and people go, would you come? Like in a heartbeat, absolutely in a heartbeat. We spend most of our lives on our own. We need to socialise with people. So I will go to as many events as I can. I've got a new book coming in July. I'm close to finishing the book after that. Lockdown has really allowed me to get ahead. So I've nearly finished the next Tom Thorne novel. I want to get that done and out of the way. Then I'm working on a crime series for TV, a couple of crime series for TV. And I want to perform with the Fun Loving Crime Writers again. We're all going crazy. It's been a year since we were able to do a gig. Well, since rather more famous bands than us have been able to do a gig.
Yeah.
I think you two are a bit more bothered about it. Just want to do that really.
Get out and see and touch people. Not inappropriate.
Well, no.
Like
We want to get out and smell people's hair.
Touch people's knees.
Yeah.
Cath, what you got planned for the rest of the year?
Yeah, well, yes, definitely going to Harrogate if that happens. I really hope it can. And I think beyond that, at the moment, the diary's blank, but I hope to be starting anytime now, writing my next novel, which, as people were saying earlier, this one is split time frame, but some of it is set in 1997. So again, like the other two, I'm going back to sort of salad days and the whole sort of rave scene and university days, that sort of thing. Although
happy
I
day.
in 1997, but I
think we were well out of uni by then.
we were. But yes, and set outside of Manchester, which always makes my editor very happy.
Lovely, thank you. And Amanda, you're going to obviously be smelling people touching their knees and being thrown cherries for the rest of your life.
I'll definitely not use this hour to glorify my character, have I? I'm going to be hot on the tails of everyone else, racing up to any Harrogate bar I can get to. I miss people a lot. I do love my own company, but I have definitely missed people. Work-wise, I've just handed in the first draft of book 6, so hopefully edit's coming back any day soon, and I'll be working on that. And then next year I've got 2 books coming out, because my second book, which was not quite so read, it was with a small indie publisher, has been re-released by my current publisher. So I'm really excited about that, because it's my unloved baby that spent most of its time in the dark cupboard. So it's nice to be able to open the door and get it dressed again and get it out. And then obviously, hopefully, if everyone gives me the thumbs up, writing my gothic horror and killing more people than I've ever killed. I'm going to catch up with Mark and get my body count up.
Come on.
Yeah. So, but otherwise, just hoping that we, hoping that from a serious note that we can unroll into the new life and get back to it not the new normal, but just normal. Would be nice.
Lovely. Well, I'm going to let you go and do nothing now until we can do something. So I'm going to say thank you guys so much for coming on board. We've had some lovely comments. People are saying, yes, the 90s were great. Karen has just ordered all of your books. So if you see your Amazon, your book shooting up Amazon, that's why. Yes, but Andy had to go because he had to leave because his other half was going to murder him. So we could actually be responsible for one death as well. So we're just going to say goodbye to everyone at TBC, and I'm going to log us out.
Thanks very much, everybody. Thank you, Tracy.
Bye-bye.
Lovely to see you all. Bye.